Hello. Welcome back to Brews and Business. Today we have an old guest joining the studio that hasn't been around since we were in the old Blue studio, and now we're in the remodeled studio, which is pretty cool. Be sure to check out brewsandbiz.com, where you will find our latest official Brews and Business blend. This blend will change from origins throughout the years, or throughout the months as well. So like this month right now, they have a surplus of Ethiopia, which is a natural process, Yurga Chef, Gelbesa, however you say that. Orange, blackberry wine, Capri Sun after your soccer game is what you should experience, like in the environment that you're at. It's a light roast, and it is roasted to order. So you will place the order, get 10% off using the code BREWS. The link is on our website, and then they'll ship it out, or you can pick it up if you're here locally in Tulsa. So make sure you get your bag right now. This Ethiopian is amazing. If you ever get a chance to get to Nicaragua, it is even better, in my opinion. I love South American coffees, but that is the brew to go with. So without further ado, Harley from Get Better Bookkeeping. How are you, sir? Welcome back.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the invite. Yeah, of course. Glad to be back and glad to see the fun big studio. So
Blue Studio's changed quite a bit, going from almost what felt like a closet space to this.
Next, you'll work on the audience on standby. But
that'll be fun.
We got a bench seat in the back for people though.
Right.
We'll have to get all the kids to come over here and fake clap.
Yeah,
there we go.
Do you know Blue will let us go live on Facebook and YouTube and TikTok? And
you know Blue
Studio.
Blue Studio.
Yeah. Will let us go live.
Yeah, like with software and stuff. Like as we're recording, it'll go live at the same time. Like, yeah,
it's great.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We haven't done it in a while. I think we're live on YouTube right now.
Oh.
Yeah, if we are.
I always assume I'm live. It doesn't really matter.
Hello.
Yeah.
I don't know which camera to look.
Just be real. No, you're only at one.
You're supposed to look at all of them, don't you know?
At the same time.
Like a gecko.
Yeah. Right.
So Harley, what's new? What's been going on in your world year to date?
Oh, well, life seems pretty simple at the moment, where it's just work, business, try and be a good husband, try and be a good dad, and that's it. So, year and a half into it though, and I mean, we're continuing to see great growth with the company, you know. So we've got a team of about 10 folks. A couple other bookkeepers are going to come on in July. By July 4th, we'll be somewhere under 80 companies we're working with.
Great.
Yeah. So no, it's a lot of fun growth, man. And I don't see it stopping anytime soon. So yeah.
Awesome.
Now, since we last spoke,
and we started working together, by the way.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, you are fantastic, by the way. You and your team, the way that you've structured stuff, I love it. I mean, I love working with Karen.
Thank you.
She does a great job too. I mean, our books are always up to date and reconciled. Like that was an issue that I had. Well, that was one of the issues that I had, where I was like, "Hey, I don't know what happened in January. It's November. Like this shit should have been reconciled within. I mean, some others would argue maybe 60 to 90 days reconciled, maximum period. Right. That's if there's discrepancies or certain questions or issues and whatever it is. Like I would give up to that time frame and be like, I get it. But they don't take near as long to do that. That's pushing it, right?
That's pushing it. 69 days.
60, 90 days is pushing it.
That's my whole season, dude.
I know.
I can't wait that long to make adjustments.
But you're right. But
that's week by week.
That's what's cool about working with them is because I don't have to wait that long for accurate numbers.
Right.
And if you remember when we spoke with Brad Cochran at Vertices, which is accounting different than bookkeeping, which a lot of people don't know. They're like, yeah, accounting and bookkeeping is the same. No, it's different. So Get Better Bookkeeping doesn't get into the realm of accounting. They're just making sure the books are accurate. So then when accounting needs to do their job, they take that on the next step.
It's a whole lot easier for them too.
Right.
Yeah. Because they always get cases of people like, I don't know, here's a
box of receipts. Have fun.
Here's my mess. I help figure out my taxes.
Sometimes there's a fuel thing in there. Sometimes.
Yeah. Right.
So that was one of the greatest things about transitioning over. And then the other part of that was just communication. Like I understand for the most part what the numbers say.
You're pretty savvy,
but
the most.
But then there's still things that to where when you're in it, you don't know what's happening, even though that you're in it. Like you may be building the house, but if you look outside of the house and you're looking at the house, you're like, wait, that's framed wrong. Right. Those nails shouldn't go there. They should go over here, whatever it is. Right. And so like being able to have those conversations with Harley is like, I mean, amazing. It's so nice to just be able to have some of that affirmation or confirmation that like, okay, you're right. I did interpret this number the right way, or, you know, hey, we are on the right track. And then there's some accountability to that too.
You know, I'm curious because we started beginning of the year. So you're like almost half a year into it.
Mm-hmm.
What's been one of the bigger revelations that you've come away with in our financial reviews?
Well, one thing is like Blue Studio is under the Sooner umbrella. Mm-hmm. So like with that being said, that the expansion on that doesn't have to live under the profit and loss. It can live under an asset under the balance sheet.
Right.
Okay. And then I started watching more videos and exploring a little bit just recently about how when that is formulated correctly and legally, it can help you with financing. So you may have expenses for assets, but that doesn't necessarily have to belong under profit and loss. It could go into your balance sheet. What could help you with finance, acquiring finance or whatever. So like that was one cool element to kind of see how that worked.
Oh, well, I bet the reason why is because now your business is seen as more valuable overall because you've baked more into the investment of this business. Mm-hmm. Therefore, the bank sees it as,
it's a bigger asset.
This is more than just,
I'm doing it out of his
literal
closet.
evidence about what this business is. So therefore, more evidence to give you more money, you know?
Yep.
So
that's one of the great things. The other one is like anytime Harley and I get together, I'm always learning something new, whether it's one of those things or something else. So like, you know, and as being a business owner, you can only know so much at some point in time, and you're always trying to improve and learn something new. Man, if you don't know your numbers, what you're saying, isn't it like know your numbers or something like that? You had a slogan at one point in time, or you said something on a video. You're like, if you just knew your numbers, blank, 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 blank.
Oh
man, I don't remember what it was, but it was fire.
I put out a lot of social media videos, so I don't know what I said.
And then the other part, like if I like following Harley on social, like I love your videos and stuff. Part of them entertaining, and the other part of our educational and stuff too. So like I watch those, and I'm like, oh okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Good.
I will say I watch those videos too, man. Good
you.
videos for sure. Yeah. Good information.
Where are you at?
I don't actually watch the videos. I'm sorry.
Well, we just met, right?
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Where can I find your videos? What's your handle on socials?
Just go to Get Better Bookkeeping, and that's our company page, or
we'll
follow me directly on socials. So
yeah, that's good information.
Yeah,
that's always good information for sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you've been working on with clients to where you're like, man, I keep repeating this over and over again that you need to know this.
You just said it. You got to know your numbers.
You got to know your numbers.
Oh, you can get a lot more specific than that. Let's see.
What's something that's been, repetitive over and over again? You're like, man, I always have this conversation.
I mean, you're at 80 companies now. There's sure to be some overlap.
Well, right.
There's probably a number of them.
I
would imagine.
Yeah, so I'm choosing which one I want to do.
There you go.
Pick one and run. Just start throwing it. We'll figure it out.
All right. So, when we're reviewing finances, everybody, for the most part, knows the profit and loss statement.
Right. You got your P&L.
Right. And it boils down to a net profit number. What most folks don't realize is that just because the net profit says a number or a net loss, that doesn't mean that's how much cash you have in the bank.
Very true.
So you have a balance sheet that helps give you that picture of where the other expenses are going. And the best way that I've come to describe this is the profit and loss is all of the regular activities of the business. All of the income you get from clients, all the expenses that are associated to operating your business and providing the service to the client. But there's irregular expenses that happen on this profit and loss, where it has to do with the overall value of the company. Sorry, I know I'm
boring
you. Yeah,
I didn't get any sleep last night.
Okay, you're good.
No, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm messing with you. So where I used to work, they would ridicule me for yawning.
At least I'm here.
Yeah, you're here, right?
I wasn't late. I was on time.
That's great. Yeah,
I'm awake.
All right. Anyways,
why are you yawning?
It's like 3 hours of sleep last night. I've been working, man.
Good job.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, grinding over here.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So your balance sheet is irregular expenses of the business. So what does that mean? That means loans that you have on the company. you wouldn't put those expenses on the profit and loss because you have this loan amount that you're trying to bring down on the overall value. So people forget that they might have 3 vehicle payments that aren't on this profit and loss, but are represented on the balance sheet. And that's where that extra cash flow is going.
That's a differentiator from working with a previous bookkeeping company for 2 or 3 years. My loan payments would be on my profit and loss.
Oh, that's a problem.
I'm almost positive.
Yeah.
I'm 98% sure.
Okay.
That rings a bell. Okay, keep going.
Right. So this is why it's helpful when you go to the bank and we have your liabilities really put together on your balance sheet and you're seeing the track record of how much you've been paying off. Your bank is seeing you as a trustworthy person with your debts. Therefore, they can trust you with continuing to pay off your debts. And they're seeing how much is there on your balance sheet to say, oh, well, tell you what, we could reorganize that into a lump sum loan that helps give you a better deal. You can't have those conversations if you don't have that information on your balance sheet. Some of the other ones are owner's draws. I mean, look, a lot of folks don't get a direct salary in their company. So they're paying their bills somehow.
Right.
But that expense isn't on the profit and loss. It's shown on a balance sheet about how much you've utilized for yourself, not as a paid salary person. And that gets people a lot because they're like, oh, yeah, no, I've given myself 50 grand already in the year. And it could just be in random expenses because a lot of folks don't split their personal and business expenses.
Right.
And so you get a lot of those slipping into the balance sheet where, yeah, it might say you made a profit, but you're actually at a loss with your cash flow.
Right. You only made $32,000 in profit, but you spent $50,000 in owner's draws.
Yeah.
Or one of the other ones, there's a coffee shop here in town we work with where they say they have a profit, but they're seeing their bank accounts declining steadily over the year. And he's like, where is this money going? And we've finally took a step and realized, hey, it's your sales tax that you're paying every month that's on this balance sheet. As you build up on your sales tax amount and then pay it off. Well, those payoffs are happening on that balance sheet because you're paying down the balance of sales tax you've built up over that month of selling stuff.
Yep.
Well, that's like 7-8 grand a month of how much they sell. I mean, they're doing great coffee shop around town, cafe. So, you know, that's where you see those losses and totally connects the dots of like, oh, and that's probably the frustrating thing with folks when they work with bookkeepers is they get these reports, but it doesn't make sense at all to what they see on the bank accounts or the credit cards.
They're like, I have 10,000, 100,000, whatever it is. And they're like, but you know, the profit and loss says I should have 400,000.
Right.
And that's where this disconnect is not supposed to happen.
Right.
In how your accounting should go.
You know, you asked me a question a second ago about how the financing went on the house, right? Because we're closing on Tuesday. And I said, I think I just had a really good team this time. And what you're saying right now, I think comes down to why this time it seemed to just go smooth. Not only did I have a different mortgage person and a realtor, there were a couple that obviously, you know, that just happens to work better. They're in the market. But also, over the last few years, I've had a little bit more conversations with my CPA. I've had a little bit more conversations. We're more in tune with our numbers to where, as you said, we have records. Before, for the past, you know, I've been trying to get a house for like 3-4 years. I had documentation to show, but it was more like, well, how are you going to provide this? Now it's like, well, let me just CC my CPA real quick, and he'll send over whatever documentation I need. Yeah. And let me get with my office manager who does our bookkeeping and so on and so forth. And they're just going to send over all the documentation. And that's what I feel like made it easy. I didn't have to come up with anything. I literally just said, hey, I need you to provide this because they're asking me for this. Or, hey, one of the things was May 31st. I needed an up-to-date P&L and balance sheet, right? It was pretty well up to date. And my office manager, my sister, she's like, hey, well, if you'll just have Chris look over it, make sure it's good, and then he can send it over. And sure enough, 15 minutes later, he's like, hey, here's your documents you need. And it's like, well, in the past, it hasn't been that easy. And it comes down to, we now have more records to show in the business of proof, like, and we had this conversation earlier, actually, in the business of how when you're working with mom and pops, it may not be a corporate thing, right? So like we just got cut off, and this is stupid, but we just got cut off at AutoZone again because we're late on our payments. The payment was due 3 days ago. We owe them $450. $450, man. and we got cut off on their account. Like, you know what? Whatever. We'll just pay for it every time. That's stupid that we're even dealing with this. But yeah, you have mom and pop shops around town where you have $50, $80, $100,000 that you owe them. And they're like, hey, just call me. Just call me and talk to me. Why?
Yeah.
Because they know you're not going to skip town. It's been there
Oh.
before. You have a track record, right? And they have
man.
that proof that you will come back. It is whatever. You have a certain job. And not only that, you have this conversation with a vendor and you're like, hey, well, we have this open ticket for you for 30 grand. And it's like, right, what's for XYZ job? It's like, well, I know. And actually they just reached out to me. The person who you're doing the job for just reached out to your vendor. Well, why? Because it's just great business people and they're just happen to know each other. And so what? Well, the job hasn't paid. They already know that. So don't even worry about that. If you guys got to take care of whatever next week, don't even worry about it. Why? Because we know that 30 grand's technically tying up your guys' account, but we also know that you guys aren't done with that job. And so situations, and it literally comes down to you now have a track record, right? And it has become a little bit easier. And with you and Harley working together, again, I don't know if we have a great relationship with me and my CPA. I think it's way better than it has been.
Sure.
But with that is like, I think a lot of it comes down to us as business owners, man. A lot of times we're scared to talk to a CPA or a bookkeeper because we're like, oh, shit, we're going to have to owe money.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
this is everything that we're doing wrong.
They're going to see me
Yeah.
naked.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. They're going to see me naked.
Oh,
but
no.
but the reality is like, well, they only make money if you make money. If you just start having the conversations and people stay in business, well,
I don't know. It's the kind of same thing with me. Like I have to see I request from our clients sales reports by service category or service lines or product lines, etc. I love to have those when available.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked you for them a few times in the past. If you don't already provide those to Lexi, make sure Lexi. That's a way to hold Lexi accountable.
Oh yeah. Oh, we actually went through some numbers last
which is
Tuesday.
good. So without that, like that's the only way I really keep my job. Because outside of that, I'm just project-based creative.
But
but if I'm ongoing spending and investing and trying to move things forward, I need some per se KPIs
right.
to make sure that, okay, this is my target. Am I on track? Where am I at? Where am I lacking? What do I need to adjust to make sure I'm getting there? Did I hit it early? Great. I hit it early. Adjust the KPI again. Try to extend it out something more reasonable. Right.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. You just said it right there. But I also think it comes down to look at Harley's business model. We've talked to other CPAs. We've talked to other bookkeepers. Certain people have certain aspects of business that they take serious. You say, hey, I want that information. Why? Because that helps me be able to direct my efforts to make sure that whatever is actually already making you money, we're just going to make it even easier for you to make money on that, right? On my end, I can't do that. But what do? Well, I put myself in the customer's perspective. I look at it as if it's my house. What views am I looking at? And so how do I fix the problem? But again, it comes down to one with us here. We've learned to be vulnerable and be honest and be a little bit more open with people. And it does come down to, I think the last podcast with you was kind of that whole idea is most bookkeepers or CPAs won't really give you that time unless you're like asking for it. It's not typical.
Begging.
Right, begging,
Yeah,
begging,
right.
essentially.
Yeah.
Where most of the time, it is you're begging for them. Where if you just keep on searching, and as a business owner, I know you got a million things on your plate. The last thing you think of is bookkeeping and your CPA, but it does make a difference. So that way you know where your money is going. Like you said, the P&L and the balance sheet situation, that was something that probably up until maybe a year and a half ago, I didn't really understand until my CPA was like, listen, this is how it kind of all makes sense. And this is what it all was like, oh,
So
okay. So
that was
most
one of my
people
expectations
Don't understand that connection.
right. And I was like, okay, but I don't make sense. He's like, but because the thing is, you're building assets. There's a way. Yes, I understand your net profit is next to nothing. I understand. But like, do you understand we're building assets? There's a real value you're building in the business, as you just said. And it's not just you're passing money through the business. You're showing that you're a smart business owner. You're reinvesting.
And the tough part is that a lot of folks listening might all be, agreeing that, hey, this is kind of like the first time we're diving into a topic like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because there's not really a place. Like I've been talking to people like this, not really, you don't have a certification to be a business owner. You just go and do it, and then so many times we just stumble along and figure out, oh yeah, I need to do that. Or yeah, I need to do that. Or I'm the IT guy. Sure.
What does IT even stand for?
Yeah. You just
internet technology.
Well, there you go.
Well,
Thanks.
Okay.
I wouldn't have guessed it.
So, but yeah, so people beat themselves up a lot, and like one of y'all said, you might come into the room with someone and not really want to share, show yourself on your finances. I just had a meeting like that. I onboarded a gal where she's like, I don't even know where anything is. Like she's just grown so fast with her practice that she's just like, money comes in, money comes out. I don't even know. Like other people are doing it in our company, and she's just delegated to the nth degree, to where she just doesn't know. And so to her, getting to the spot of knowing her numbers is kind of a scary feeling of like, oh, how bad could it be? I feel like it's bad.
Oh yeah.
But now I'm going to have evidence.
Now it's real.
I've
It's
been there.
real.
It's real because someone else is telling me the
is.
numbers.
Oh
on it.
yeah.
Right. But
Data's data.
what I told her is that, hey, you might get a sticker shock about how it's going to look. But right now you have a fear of the unknown. But when you have the reality of knowing what your facts are, you now can do something about it.
Right.
And with us, I want to make sure in these financial reviews, you could see 20 different things that are issues. And these are not just reviews where we tell you what's going on and then good luck figuring it out. I want them to leave with just saying, hey, yeah, there's a lot. We're going to start with these two because these are the first quickest moves to make a difference in your profitability or your cash flow.
This is manageable.
Or how things are tracked.
Get it done.
Make the biggest improvements and then go forward from there. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing Braden with Sooner over the first 6 months, and you just celebrated a couple big wins. As you said, it helps give a direction. It helps give an intention to the efforts on the team. And I've really seen that from you guys,
Well, that's where I'll give you some credit in that too. So like where I mentioned some accountability and communicating, and I'll play this here in just a second, but one of my expectations was working with you. I was like, can we just talk once every 90 days? And I'll be happy. Like, I just want to know once every quarter, are we in the right direction? Are we making the right adjustments? Am I making money financially on paper and in the bank account? Like, can we have these talks? Can I learn more about how all this works? And even though I may be maybe more knowledgeable than most people in my stage,
you get into
lower,
it. Yeah, there's a lot of folks where like they're just every month they check in, and that's the first time they're thinking about it. But because of the fact that you had so many other bad experiences, you've taken it upon yourself to try and figure this out.
To be more proactive instead of reactive.
Because no one else was going to be there with you for that,
Yeah. And then this clip, do you remember Brad? And Maria, if you'll turn up the Bluetooth to like 75%. Huh? It's on the slide. Do you see the one that has the little Bluetooth icon? If you slide it over, it's one of the two to the far right. Yeah, slide that one. No. So the actual physical slide. Yeah.
Have you featured her on the show yet?
No, not yet.
we have been petitioning for a camera pointing back at.
So if I talk to you monthly, you can make.
Okay.
Or
all right. Yeah, she got it.
Monthly.
Yeah. Here we go. So Brad. So I mentioned earlier about Brad, and we keep talking about the frequency of being able to communicate, right? Every so often, and Brad nailed it when he did this on the podcast. It was great.
Nice.
And
went 3 months before you could talk once a quarter. You went 3 months before you could see what was going on, and you can make an adjustment. So if I talk to you monthly, you can make an adjustment every month. If I talk to you twice a month, you can make an adjustment every 2 weeks. So if you see things that you're not liking or you're tweaking, I just don't like the way this is trending. Why is profit going down? Why is that expense going up? What changed? The more often we talk, the more often you get a chance to make an adjustment.
That's so true though.
Yeah.
So like if you and me talk once a year when it's time to do taxes, it's so hard to make it. It's like, well, there goes 12 months to make any changes.
Right.
Like I may be thinking over here, grinding and working and like busting my ass and like thinking, okay, paying bills and like, why am I not making any more money? And like, why are we not able to like hire new people or whatever? I waited a whole year to try to make that adjustment. I'm like,
a little late for that.
And again, like as a business owner, you have to be almost like what John F. Kennedy said. He goes, I don't have to be the expert at every field. I don't have to know everything. And I believe he was one of the, I believe he also didn't go to college. Someone can correct me on that. But he goes, I don't have to be expert in everything. I have buttons all over my desk to where I can hit any one of them and get an answer to anything I need to know. I just know how to be able to connect each one of them and be able to utilize that information to make the correct action.
You said John F. Kennedy said that?
I believe so.
So
wasn't it?
There's a story from Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill,
Mhm.
classic self-help book from 100 years ago. The story is from Henry Ford. He was actually
No, it was Henry Ford.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's who it was. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for correcting me. Appreciate
The
that.
story is from
Yep.
Henry Ford, and Napoleon talks about how he was in a court case hearing.
Yep.
And they're pegging him to be some idiot guy. He grew this company from nothing, but didn't have the pedigree, educated background to validate all these people that got degrees.
You're not supposed to be able to do this, so how have you done it?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're questioning everything you do because you shouldn't be here.
You should not be doing this.
Don't we see that today? But in that time, he has an epic session where he's like, hey, look, I have the ability to press the buttons, reference the button sections on his desk. He can press any button at his desk and get an answer to anything within 5 minutes from people that he's assigned to. And it left the room speechless because I was like, oh, that is a whole other
Because so
level.
many people think of that person, that role, or him as an expert and everything. They're like, oh yeah, he knows everything. Like, no, he doesn't, you know? And so as a business owner, you almost have to be like that too.
Yep.
You have to be able to have someone like Harley and his team. You have to have a good accountant. You have to have someone that's good in HR. You have to have someone that's a good banker, you know, that works with your accounting people. You have to have good producers, you know, like you have a really good job, I think, at layering your people, you know, and making sure those roles are put in the right place to be able to know how to manage those people, manage the schedules, and manage the finance part. And that's cool. Like, not only do you delegate, but you delegate and give them power, responsibility, you know, because you can only make so many decisions. And that's something else that Jeff Bezos said in a podcast. He's like, you know, I can only make so many decisions in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to relieve those some decisions to other people.
Yep.
And empower them to make those on their own.
And you have to support them whenever the decision doesn't go the way you want it to go.
And
that's
accept that it's going to
that's
make
a hard one.
They will make
but
mistakes.
It is. They will make mistakes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's something that also as a business owner, it's kind of hard to learn because while you're thinking about your numbers, because a lot of times you don't know until you know. And I love that he said, like, you know, the whole stress factor comes in for you're just not dealing with something that you should just be dealing with.
Mhm.
And not knowing your numbers is a pretty big fucking stress. And then once you know, you're like, wow, okay, at least I know I got to fix it.
Yeah.
Like, at least you don't know what to fix because you don't know if there's anything broken, right?
Right. You're just thinking more and more sales.
Right. And then once you
Cut
actually
expenses.
see your numbers, you're like, okay, well, you know what? It doesn't necessarily mean sales. Don't get me wrong, that's always good, but there's other areas that could alleviate some pressure and other areas if you just sit and look at it, you know? But a lot of times that's not like priority on our mind. And that whole aspect of knowing someone, I don't know. I haven't read the book, and I know the story about Henry Ford. I've read Think and Grow Rich, I think 3 times now. But there's another book that I've been meaning to read that I was recommended by a business broker of a friend of mine, that was called Who, Not How. And I have yet to read the book, but he explained to me the principle of it is like, you don't need to be an expert in how to do everything. Find someone who is the expert in that task and figure out how you provide value for them. And then in turn, the whole world starts to go, right. Yeah.
Who, not how.
Yeah.
It's on my read list.
But that is the same concept, right? Of like, we don't necessarily have to know how to do it all. Like, it's fun and it's cool sometimes to know how to do it all, but realistically, we only have so much willpower, manpower, and everything to get so much done.
If you come with this mindset where it's a control freak mindset, really, at the end of the day, you want to be controlling over things and don't trust people to take care of the details, which, hey, people have trauma and issues where, like, I get it. You know, the more and more I'm in this, the more and more I find bad partnerships, bad employee relationships that I hear about, and it sucks, you know? But if you want this to really be something that scales out past you to where it's actually a business that's working outside of yourself and is a self-sustaining engine for yourself, then, make sure to put in the places the things that you need to, but back with Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. So, put the details in place for someone to take ownership, but, whoever is given someone responsibility, like Braden was saying for yourself, you're not just letting them run free. You have certain meetings or certain KPIs that they turn into you to basically just say, okay, are you really doing your job? Yeah, you're doing your job. Great. You know?
And there's certain
There's
parameters
checks
that,
and balances.
like you said, like one thing that I do, it's terrible, and I don't tell the guys this, but I only allot them 75% of the budgeted man hours to actually get a job done.
Yeah,
And it's like, what's that? Because I know shit's going to go wrong.
that's right.
So I'm going to budget you 75% of the time that I know it should take to actually get it done. So you feel like you're under pressure 24/7.
Yep.
And it sucks, but it makes sure we make profits because things go wrong.
Well,
whether
and
you need material, whether you need equipment, whatever.
Do you give
happens.
incentives if they go under 75%?
No, we could just do all around. I've talked to Braden about this. We just every year will randomly do things where, hey, not necessarily anybody gets singled out, like, oh, you don't get XYZ, but we'll do an event, and then certain people will get like basically
Extra
praise for like, so like we've gone to the river, we've gone to the Drillers game, we've done stuff like that where it's like, hey, it's because of this foreman that XYZ, you know. But no, we haven't given incentives. We do quarterly bonuses every now and again. Okay. So like at the end of the seasons, we will do bonuses depending on.
What is that tied to, the bonuses?
Depending on how the crews go. But realistically, there's no actual data behind it. It's just of how did you manage your crew?
I see where he's going.
I know where he's coming from. Right. And there is no data behind it. Just this year, we're actually, and like I said, because of the conversations we've had with our CPA and kind of some things we set in place.
You said there's no data. You're supposed to know your numbers.
Dude, I know certain data. I just didn't realize there was other data that was probably more relevant than certain KPIs that I set up.
You're doing a lot of things.
Right. There was certain KPIs that I set up that I'm like, now I'm looking at it like, well, that's stupid. There's another number that's way more important than that KPI.
Yeah.
But you got to know the bad before you can get to the good.
Right. So my next step to push you is I have been trained very much so to make an environment merit-based pay as much as possible.
Oh, yeah.
So if they get under the 75%, there are certain tiers about how well or not they are compensated based upon that. And they need to know those standards.
Now, I have a question about that. Okay, let me ask you this. And this is just posing a thought process here. Mm-hmm. And this is actually a very good example because I'm in the middle of this job right now.
Yep.
So I have a job where I had to plant 28 trees, very large trees.
Okay.
I have equipment.
Great. All's
good. Let's go. I budgeted 180 man hours to do this job. I told them they had 120. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, easy, done. I also quoted the customer quite a bit more because I know they like to make changes. It just happened. I know who they are.
Wait a minute. Do you do change orders?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But I also know that before the change order, there will be little tiny finicky things.
Could I have this over here? I want this a little bit higher.
Listen, you're still just going to plant the 28 trees. Uh-huh. But instead of the 28 trees going here, I may want like 3 over there. And like 4 over there and XYZ. No big changes, but I know there's like small things, right? And
you're accounting for them somehow.
I'm accounting for them. And I'm like, okay, so I know this.
Experience.
That's what it is, right? I've worked with this lady for 3 years. I know her. And she always pays her bill. I mean, as soon as we're done. Sure. So I'm fair with her, but I also account for things.
You get down payments though, right?
Oh yeah. We get deposits. Right, yeah. Well, absolutely. And that's another reason why I love her.
Speaking of which, for the first time I owe this guy money.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah. It's nice. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, with this situation, right, we're in right now, you asked the merit-based pay and situation, and I had budgeted X amount of hours, 180 hours, but I only gave my guys 120 hours to get the job done. Well, yesterday, we're wrapping up, almost done. And we're right at about 100 hours. And I'm like, hey, everything's looking good, so on and so forth. And I talked to the homeowner, and she's like, yeah. But, I hate those trees there. And I want to rip them out, and I replace them with those trees. I'm like, well, those trees are significantly larger. Mm-hmm. So I don't even know if I have them available. But, okay, let me see what I can do. So as you asked, I said, hey, but there's going to be a change order. And by the way, you bought the 28 trees. Like, I can't just give those back. Oh, it's fine. We'll find somewhere to put them. I don't know where the hell we're going to put these trees, but whatever. That's not my problem. She's paying for the trees.
Yep.
Anyways, the grand scheme of things, these guys, I had budgeted 180 man hours, and we're now hitting about 100, that's just over 50%, right? And we're almost done with the job.
Okay.
right? So everything's good. And then we get to yesterday and they're like, son of a, are you serious? Are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, can we ask for something? I was like, what are you guys gonna ask for? I was like, can you go rent a different piece of equipment and an auger? Because we're tired of doing this shit. I said, right, but I have the money in it. Like, you guys want the hours, don't you? Yeah, man, but this is exhausting. Can we go rent that equipment? I'm like, well, why didn't you guys ask for that at the beginning? Like, well, because we weren't expecting to have to do X, Y, Z extra. You know, we didn't expect to have to pull those 8 trees out and then replace it with another 6 trees. And realistically, the way we planted them, our equipment won't fit in the right, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, in the grand scheme of things, I was like, yes, absolutely. I'm going to trust your judgment. We're going to go get that piece of equipment. We're going to go get that auger. So blah, 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 blah. And right now, I still have 180 hours budgeted for those trees. I now have an extra 36 hours to plant 6 more trees.
Okay.
And we're still probably going to come in under 150 hours.
Sure.
The only reason that's possible is because I trusted the foreman that said, hey, will you go give me that piece of equipment? At first, I was like, dude, we have enough to make it work. But situations changed to where now I trusted him, believed him, so on and so forth. How would you incentivize him making a good call, yet not maybe voicing it earlier? Because becoming under hours, you were going to do that regardless. Like, that was going to happen because you guys are just that good. I already know you guys are that good. But you also made a point to where just this one job, and it hasn't been this one, it's probably been over the course of the 2 months, like 6 jobs. But this one major job is like, yep, I'm going to go buy one of those machines tomorrow. Like, why? Because I know. Because, like, we could have been way under hours.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, how do you incentivize that guy like that? Like, dude, I just need you to keep telling me every time you have a great idea, tell me to just fucking trust you. And it's like, well, that's kind of hard too, because I can't just go trust a $50,000 machine like that. Like, I get it. It does make sense, but I can't.
Well, okay. So
how would you incentivize? How does that tier wise? Because that's pretty awesome tier. If you're like, save us that kind of money, and also really point out that this piece of equipment more than anybody you give me
is going to be more useful.
Equipment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
and I know that, but he just
first of all,
almost proved it.
Well,
more.
First of all, what's difficult about this is that it sounds like there's not really any standards for merit based.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
So to suddenly come up with something that would be a good idea to incentivize them without any having foundational precedent rules about what this merit-based pay scale is can be problematic.
That makes sense. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Because now you're just coming up with bonuses or random things.
Good job, dude.
And then people talk, so they're going to start thinking they get bonuses for
nobody's
other
shit.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. But nonetheless, I'm asking, right.
So, I mean, and again, in this situation, it's like, okay, well, your logic seems sound, you know?
I've just lost enough money to know I have to account for it somehow.
Yeah. Well, so like if he's wanting a piece of equipment, then the inverse thought is, okay, I'm going to rent this equipment for a certain amount. This should hypothetically save me this many hours. So the deal would be, yeah, I can give you this, but I budgeted you at 120. And yeah, this is a change order. I added this many hours for that change order. Can you get this done with this equipment in this many hours?
In 40 less hours.
So it's an exchange of worth.
Right.
That he would agree upon and take ownership of.
Right.
As a foreman. So I think in that situation, you have that trade-off to give him the value, but also you still get the
That's kind of what happened. I was like, hey, you can have it, but when are we actually going to finish this job?
Right.
Well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, listen, I'm not rushing you.
I'm not going to give you toys for
nothing. Right. I'm not rushing you, but ultimately I need to know, because I need to tell the next customer when we're going to be at their house. That's why I'm worried about it.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, okay. I'm like, I just need to know. If it's Tuesday, it's Tuesday. If it's Monday, it's Monday. I just need to know when. He's like, if you can get me that piece of machine, we'll be done by Friday.
Yeah.
So perfect. And then I show up today and the whole driveway is full of shit. And I'm like, hey, we can't do anything. Sorry, bye.
Yeah, so random perks and benefits are fun, like going to events and different things like that.
Right.
You know, it helps keep up morale, helps have people enjoy where they work, stuff like that, you know?
Right.
But I'd say you could probably leave today and, you know, find a way throughout the rest of the summer to have a foundation of merit where you say, hey, I have you do it at this percentage for the hours. Mm-hmm. And, you know, surprise, I've been doing this, you know? So if you make this benchmark, though, I compensate you this. And if you get ahead here, this is how much more I compensate you based on percentages. But then if you go less than this, you lose that bonus.
You get docked.
Right.
You no longer
And
get
you get a
anything.
minimum pay.
So performance-based pay.
Totally.
That's basically where we're going.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't used to that. This is a culture where people don't like that.
Oh, dude, I love that.
This
But-
is a culture that doesn't like to work.
That's
I'd
what it
be
is.
I'd be
I love that.
interested in having a conversation with somebody in HR because I love having these ideas, but coming to find out the ideas are not preferred legally
Bro,
or with the IRS.
Listen, I have the perfect answer to that. No hablo inglés.
Oh yeah. Go back home.
I don't speak English. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But, but
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, seriously.
but
Hey,
within reason, here's the thing. I have been leaning more towards that type of pay because I'm in a different industry than you are. So my industry, service based, is becoming a little bit, and especially considering the fact that we're not a what do you consider a professional service business. You know, anybody can be a landscaper, and boom, you're a landscaper. Now, you can't. Not everybody can be an electrician. You got to go to school, be an apprenticeship, so on and so forth, right?
I've
So,
wired some stuff I probably shouldn't.
dude, same. I'm not.
What do you mean?
It works.
I don't have the
Yeah.
title, but
There
I
you
could.
go.
I'm
I
an
didn't die,
electrician. Yeah, right. I can. YouTube University makes me anything I want to be.
There you go.
YouTube certified.
but-
I'm a journeyman. Don't
Right.
worry.
But anyways, it's that reality, right? So the performance-based pay to me is becoming a little bit more attractive for the simple fact of this. I hire and listen, I love making fun of races because we've all earned our own fucking title. Just
Yeah.
plain and simple. Everybody loves high Hispanics. Why? Because we fucking work hard. You give us some good music, you give us a drink here and that.
You got
12
good
pack of
big
dude.
hat.
Dude, we work
A
hard.
really
and-
big
and-
hat.
Right. It's a shade thing.
Yeah, I know.
Right. But we work hard and we like to do it. We prefer to do those types of tasks. Like even me being American raised, dude, I prefer to be outside working, mowing yards or working in the sun. It's peaceful. It really is just peaceful. And it's like, okay, you can hate it, you can, whatever, right? But nonetheless, no matter where you fall in the spectrum, you will find that there are stars. And the stars never are okay with being mediocre. And you know, the first thing they want is to be recognized at not being mediocre. They don't necessarily have to be recognized as being the stars, but they want to be recognized at not being mediocre. So that's where the whole performance-based pay thing is. Dude, I don't need mediocre people on my team. I'm trying to be an all-star team, all-star business. Realistically, they will slowly weed themselves out. And I've had that happen. I've given the power to my foreman. Just like, listen, if somebody doesn't work, you come in here and you talk to us and we'll kind of watch from outside. We'll have some conversations. But if it doesn't work, we'll get them out because it doesn't make sense because you're essentially taking the brunt of the work. The work still has to be done. But where, like I said, the performance-based pay in my industry is becoming a little bit more of a hot topic because, man, there are people who genuinely just enjoy it. And then they love it, just as there's in every other business. They love it. They enjoy it. That's what they want to do. But then there's other people who just simply want the paycheck. And because of the world that we live in America, that I just want the paycheck, the salary, that, hey, I know how much I'm going to make an hour, whether I'm here working or whether I'm here doing nothing. It is. And the performance-based pay, man, those stars can make some money.
And
They can make some real money.
yeah, this goes so much further beyond just employees and what they make.
Oh, yeah.
Because by doing this, you're setting a precedence on how the entire picture of the company looks. Because like you said, you want to have an all-star company and you're saying anybody can be a landscaper. Well, how do you make sure that you as a landscape company in a place of all sorts of landscapers stand out? You demand excellence
Mhm.
with your team.
Mm-hmm.
And that bleeds into an excellent support from your customers. Customers think you're excellent. They refer you more. You get more reviews. And
Your
now
projects
you're
are
becoming,
cleaner.
yes, you
No
get,
trash everywhere.
it's a ripple effect of excellence in your
Mhm.
company
Mhm.
to where now it's so clear that you stand out as a go-to company to work with, even though you're just landscapers.
Oh, yeah. I know.
So-
I know. And you know what's crazy is that in our industry, anybody working in construction, dude, it's really easy to get customers if you just do good
Just do
work.
the
Oh yeah,
work.
you just
If
on
you
time.
just
I
be
mean,
there.
dude,
just
if you
communicate.
if
That's-
you'll
dude,
answer
it's
the
a-
phone call and if you'll show up,
Answer
and
the phone call
complete the
or
job,
call back
That's
or
it.
call back.
That's
Everybody's
it.
okay with the
It's
call
not
back
that hard.
and show up when you say you're going to show up. and that
Wow.
alone puts you 80%
Wow.
above
Call me out
everybody,
for it.
because
Dude.
it's just that's the industry. And it's like, man, you say that, right? If you think about how much better you'd be in the service-based industry if you just like the I think it was Roto-Rooter a few years ago was a big
Roto-Rooter
they made a
down
big
the
push
drain,
about
everybody
how
goes
who you could
trouble
expect to
down
show
the
up to their
drain.
house, right?
Roto-Rooter.
This person was going to be, there were certain excellent requirements that they told you over the radio, on the TV, whatever, that you were to expect when one of their employees showed up to their house.
Oh, away goes trouble.
Right
down the
away,
drain.
they're
Yeah.
going to have their shirt tucked in, a belt on. And what is that? It's telling the homeowner what type of excellence they expect at their company throughout the whole company. And it's also telling every potential employee or existing employee,
This is what we expect.
this is a standard, and everybody's holding you to that. Not just us, but everybody's holding you to that.
So, Harley, one of the newest things that we've been doing on the Brews and Business podcast is asking a question that none of us have been able to answer. We don't even know what it is.
Okay.
So, one of the things that we love about,
How do you know if you haven't been able to answer it?
because we've never drawn the card.
You don't have the
So
question.
nobody's answered it. So it's
Yeah.
unique for everyone on every time, and even for
Sure.
us here.
Okay.
So one of the best things about the Brews and Business podcast is having that authenticity, having some of that vulnerability,
Sure.
having that openness to grow and learn with everyone who listens and watches, right?
Mhm.
So with that being said, without further ado, let's empower some true human connection.
Through the Diary of a CEO Conversation Cards. This one is by Ben Francis. Why do you do what you do?
And anybody can answer that and run
In any order. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I definitely know that answer.
There you go.
Why do I do what I do? Well, I mean, there's the business reason. Before this, I worked for 5 years as a business coach, and we dealt with all sorts of growth issues with all sorts of people. But time and time again in these coaching meetings, I would keep seeing that there was a very consistent problem with these people, and it was that no one knew their numbers. And even if they hired a bookkeeper to keep track of this stuff or someone was doing it, they couldn't rely on that information to make decisions in their business. And so they're making their business decisions on feelings versus facts, which, in the coaching, we could help, but it felt like we had a hand tied behind our back.
Well, it sounds like a recipe for disaster, honestly.
Yeah. Well, why do you think the stats are so terrible for small businesses? So that was the business reason that this was obviously not being provided. So branched off in there, but I mean, personal reasons. I never saw myself being business coach Harley forever. So I was always wondering what the heck I was going to do. And, but then what spurred me to really start thinking is I got married. And then 3 months after that, we got too excited.
There you go.
So found I was going to have a kid.
Life happens.
Fatherhood
Right.
would, it always makes everything more of a perspective situation, or you understand a little bit more.
Well, yeah, and I always had fun ideas about stuff to do, but
to actually do them,
knowing that there's a kid, I'm like, oh, I got a clock.
This has to be, right now. It's got to go.
Yeah, I got a clock because there's a future.
There's nothing that'll put a foot in your ass faster than knowing that you've got a kid on the way.
Sure,
faster than a baby in the tummy.
You got 9 months or less, maximum around 9 months, 36 weeks.
Yeah, and
you better figure the shit out.
You better be having a lot of money coming in because it's going to go out.
Yeah,
sorta.
So
kids are expensive.
Life is expensive.
They're not that bad.
Life is, especially right now.
Kids are not that expensive.
They're really not that expensive. I don't think so. I mean, I have 3 kids, and honestly, dude,
I got 3 kids.
Not that bad. It's not that bad.
A couple $100 a month extra, it's really not that bad.
Listen, I'm gonna spend that money on some other dumb shit anyways. I'd rather spend it on my kids and I get joy out of it. But hey, you know what? I like how you answered that question, and I'm gonna follow up on that. Why do I do what I do? You started with your business aspect of it, right? I grew up outside. I mean, I was that kid who for summer break, we woke up at 6 o'clock every day, especially on Saturdays, to go outside to work. And I hated every minute of it.
Yep.
But now that I'm older, man, it's peace. It is the only time I get peace is when I'm outside working, right? When your body's working, so your mind can't. And it really just came into a reason of realizing like, man, that's where I'm happy. Outside, I love camping. I love being outside. And I love seeing people enjoy the outside. So on the business end, it's like, that's kind of what happened. But what led me to it was, I went to work one day and the gates were locked and there was no work. And I was like, well, damn. And very similar to you, Harley, God had plans, and I had sold a car a while before we started the business, before I ended up without a job. I sold a car because I knew there was more, and I wasn't sure what more meant at the time. But I sold a car, and then we went to Hawaii, and then we found out my wife was pregnant. And I think that was the what. I didn't know it, but I think like my soul knew there was a baby in there, and I needed to get rid of the car. There was more to provide for my family. The car was fun,
Slow,
right?
Yeah,
it was pretty slow, but whatever. Nonetheless, man. So we ended up in a situation where I sold a car, and I didn't regret it one bit, and I didn't know what was next. I just knew my wife was pregnant, and I took a chance right before that. Actually, I took a huge pay cut. Just to go do something different. I took like literally a $5 an hour pay cut to go do something different because I was tired of doing what I was doing. And it ended up in a situation where I ended up without a job, and I happened to have some money in the bank, which up until that point hadn't really happened. Yeah. And then we had some people call, and they're like, hey, can you do this? I'm like, no, I don't have no business. I was just an employee. Right. Well, can you do it though? Well, I mean, yeah, I could do it, but I don't have a business.
Figured out.
So all I need is a 1099 for right now. But if you get an LLC and you give me some insurance, we'll set you up. Oh, nah, you go on to the next guy. And then they just kept hounding us. And then finally I was like, okay, it took about a month and a half of convincing my brother of, hey, you have some money in the bank, I have some money in the bank, and we're both jobless. We've both have tried starting businesses, but we had a job. And we were doing side hustles trying to make it into business. Right now, we literally have nothing to do. There is no plan A, B, or C. Let's make a plan A and let's burn the rest of the boats. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, you decided to be a real entrepreneur then.
Yeah.
When you decided to say, hey, burn the boats. We got to figure this shit out.
Oh, dude, it was.
It's either
it was just like
succeed or die.
And so my brother and I had this conversation. We have an owners meeting every month. And we had an owners meeting Tuesday. And I told him, I was like, our families are different, and we've been in business for 6 years, and we haven't really talked because life happens, kids happen and so on and so forth. Yeah. And we talked on Tuesday, and I was like, it's funny. The situations have severely changed since we started. I was like, because we started and it was all in, we were all on board. But the reality is like, now we're looking at our business and seeing kind of what has happened. And it's like, you just said it. We're real businesses. We jumped in all in. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But now we're looking back and we're like, well, the situations have severely changed, but yet expectations are the same. Yet accountability is the same. Everything's the same that we expected back then. But the reality is like life has completely changed, and our goal and our job more than anything is to make sure we take care of everybody in the business. Mm-hmm. So how do we readjust? How do we do that? And like I said, 6 years ago, we ended up without a job and kind of like in the situation of, oh, what do we do? And right now in the business, we're not necessarily like, oh, shit, mayday, nothing. But it's like reality of like, whoa, shit, okay, we've built this pretty nice little business. But to grow it to XYZ levels, we really need to reassess what we can give and what life has given us and kind of see how do we be more intentional with our time? How do we make sure that everybody that we take care of takes care of us, mm-hmm. and vice versa. So
and kind of where do you go from here?
Yeah, right. Like we made it here and we know we can keep going, but it's like, do you really just want to keep going? No, you don't want to be mediocre. You don't want to be mediocre. And the bills are paid, everything's good, but it's like,
that's not enough.
That's not enough. Yeah. Like, come on, man. You want to have that name of excellence. You want to have that name of,
you want to figure out the end in mind.
Right. And exactly. And it's like, what is that end in mind? It's like, well, for me, I've always known I was going to get out. So like, I know that.
Selling it.
Right. I know that. And now we're talking. It's like, well, okay, but what does that really look like?
Wait, to sell it?
Oh yeah. I was always going to get out. What was I going to do whenever I get out?
What?
I want to follow my wife. She's going to start school. That's always been the plan. She's going to start school.
To start a school.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not going to sell entirely. I'm going to sell. My plan has always been to retain 20% of the business and basically be the accountability for the business. And then from there,
would it be sustained earnings to provide for you and your wife to do a school?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But I realize we're probably 10 years
10.
out.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a trek.
I bet you can move faster. If you want.
We absolutely could. But I also with that is like you, man, my kids are
this
young.
idea. Do you have this written down somewhere?
It is.
Okay,
It is.
good.
It's written down in a few places, different ideas, same
Okay.
concept, but different strategies.
Yeah, I mean, so this is good because I tell a lot of people that it's great that when you start a business or whenever to come up with the end in mind.
Oh yeah.
What is that vision? Not only to take care of yourselves, but also to be like the point of satisfaction.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where are you
Because
happy?
we can get crazy hungry on growth and
yeah.
get these ideas about how fun things could be from other people, but it gets away from what matters.
Right.
Where the business serves you and whatever goals you have, because the business is not everything. I need people to know that the business is not everything.
It's a means to an end.
There's so much
It's a
more.
means to an end.
It means to an end you need to figure out.
Right.
You know? And so, yeah, when I started this, my partner pushed me to figure this out, and I came up with a $3 million a year business.
Nice.
That in order to get to there, we probably need 30 employees
Mhm.
because customers were probably going to pay us this much per month.
That's right.
Yep.
And in this part of this plan, I figured out I need to be in multiple cities.
Mhm.
And this would give me the opportunity to work 20 hours or less a week in the business to do these other fun things with my time.
Mhm.
And it might sound crazy to try and figure out, but you can sit there and really write down and figure out how, like,
You can work
reverse
backwards.
engineer this
Oh,
goal.
Yeah. There's a story that my brothers and I talk about. My partner is my older brother, but my younger brother is a part of the business too. And we talk about it all the time. I think it was year 1 in the business. And there was a reason we're partners. You know, there's strengths and weaknesses.
Yep.
And my strength has always been that visionary, the dreamer, and the business side of things. And I told them in like 2019, we're doing one of the biggest jobs to date. And we were talking and everything. Dude, we were out there doing grunt work.
Yep.
And I told them, listen, you guys are either going to help me build these systems or you guys are going to be one of my systems. And I pissed them off for months. And not 6 months ago, I was like, who's running the company right now? It's not me. You guys are one of my systems. I told you guys. I told you guys I needed your help to build the systems where you guys would be part of my systems. And now you guys are stuck. And I am too. But we're different stucks. And they're like, well, we just didn't know what you meant. I was like, I understand that. But there's that conversation that we weren't allowed to have at the time. And we've grown and situations have changed. But like you said, that end goal for me has always been, I'm going to sell, retain part of the business, and probably do the same thing with my wife and her business and the school. We'll grow it to a certain point that gives us X amount to get to the next one. And we'll just probably continue to do that forever. And just because, frankly, man, I love people. People are amazing. But frankly, I don't want to manage all those people. I just want to get to know them really good and be like, dude, you're really good at this. How do we make you successful? And then I'll just move on to the next guy.
Sure.
And you're just great people. I get surrounded by great people. Like that's the goal. You guys haven't talked at all.
Why do you do what you do, Braden?
I'm kind of in a daze right now from hearing your guys' stories. Mine is just fun shit. I'm like for those who know my story, like I hired my neighborhood friends to run my lemonade stand at 12.
Right.
I'm like, oh, this is fun. Like I can make more money and work less and or I mean, I love what I do. It's fun. And even if I wasn't doing exactly like anything marketing and advertising related, which is so business in depth, I've just got a big passion for business. Like I would get into a lot of industries. I've worked in so many industries. I've had 17 jobs between 14 and 20. And I got started in business in 2012, officially 10 years ago. This year is 10 years officially LLC'd in business.
Nice.
Haven't worked with anyone. Haven't been employed anywhere else since then.
There you go.
And never will be again.
And now, and I'm unemployable.
Unemployable.
I couldn't. I was a real quick realization. I couldn't imagine going back to working a job.
So you're looking in the mirror and you're like, this shit sucks, but I'll never work for anybody else.
Well,
it's not that bad.
Almost 2 years ago, I applied at 30, 40 places.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to get employed.
Wow.
Nobody would hire me. I even had interviews. Nobody would hire me. No, any range amount.
What a sign that
He
you
changed
need
his
to keep
He
haircut.
going.
wouldn't hire me.
Yeah.
And that was right about the time where I felt like I was going to crash and burn.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Man, and I'm not saying that I've made it or anything yet. I mean, it's always a still struggle on the way up, and
Progress.
it's progress, you know. And but I mean, I love being creative. I love figuring out how to get somebody's attention.
You just have fun
how
doing
to
this.
sell.
Yeah.
It's kind of starts out with sales, and then it's like, okay, well, it's so much easier to sell somebody on something, which if you sell somebody on something, you're not manipulating them to be able to give them your money. You are providing a solution to a problem that they have, something that they actually need or want. And so, well, how do you figure that out? Well, that goes all the way back to the beginning of the sales marketing process.
Yep.
Good marketing makes better sales. And
do you
so
have
that's
like a
fun.
future picture of yourself? Like you fantasize about, this is the version of Braden I want to be?
Man, that's a great question because I
Some-
literally think of that all the
yeah,
time. Who am I going to be at like 40?
I know.
I'm like, dude, that's terrifying.
I wrap my brain around that a lot.
I
and
can't do it.
I get excited because
Oh, yeah.
I have a very fun picture of myself in the future.
Same.
But
It's
some
only 10
people are
years.
like,
I'm taller, but I don't know if that doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't. It's
I
not
think
gonna
you're
work.
done
But
growing,
I
boy.
think I know
That makes
I am
you easier
too.
to
But
trip.
yeah, right.
But some people, this maybe applies to you, where you're like, I'm having fun with the ride, man. Wherever I go, I'm just gonna have a fun time with it. You know.
I made a clip on the last episode last week. Was a lot of people. There's people out there who will figure themselves out. They know who they are from 12, and then they life is great for them.
Really lucky.
You know?
Yeah.
And they're lucky. They have the vision, they have the passion, whatever it is, and they have the right things at the right time with the right people. Their parents have the right connection, whatever it is.
To see stories like that. Yeah.
And well, that's great.
That's not average.
That's
No,
your one percenters or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it, right? You know, when you say like, where do you want to be, and where and what are you doing in 10 years?
I'm definitely still going to be mowing my
I'm
yard.
pissed at where I'm at.
Yeah, I know
10,
you are.
10 years ago.
Comparative.
You
I'm
told me
pissed.
this when we started working.
I'm
together.
still
You're
pissed.
Yeah,
I'm still pissed.
But
And
you shouldn't be.
You're seeing some radical changes.
But you really shouldn't
Yeah,
be.
it's.
I'm not.
Should he?
I'm still not done.
I know
I don't
you're
think
not.
you should be.
I know
Why?
you're not, but you're on the way there, man.
Man,
And so I'm always challenging myself. And so like that goes into the conversations that we've had too, with like the grind.
right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, the grind is full of shit and stuff. And while it can be plenty of times, but sometimes you do have to.
Sometimes you got to do it.
have to put in the work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But is the work actually productive work too? Is it actually making an impact on the business? And you do have to kind of balance that between some productive work that generates actual cash revenue and productive work that is more on the strategy side. There's work that you can do now that doesn't provide actual cash results,
But provides a
but
better
over
future.
2, 3,
for
4,
later.
5, whatever years. So when you say like, where do you imagine yourself in 10 years and why do you love doing what you do? I like business. I like sales. I like marketing.
Yeah.
I like problem solving. I like logistics. I like strategy. I like operations. And sometimes I can get a little in my mind. I get a little too like. Sometimes I feel like I can get a little too technical and I don't make good connections.
Braden's a
sometimes.
control freak. That's the answer.
Do you concur? Yes. Okay. All right.
He's good at it.
I almost
though.
have to. Yeah, I have to.
He's
be
good at
sometimes.
it,
We
though.
need to get you
no,
a mic.
I've
Like
got.
you need to be the Googler. Like, come on.
That's what we do
Listen,
with Devin.
Listen,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
keep saying this. It's got to
That's what
happen.
that cable is down there. I just
It'll
need to keep the
happen.
mic over there.
It'll
Every
happen.
podcast needs a Jamie.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Absolutely.
That's what I say every
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
He's like, "Where's Jamie?"
And I don't say this in the aspect that I'm done or not working. But I imagine in 10 years from now, I have a little bit different of a life balance. For one, I always want to make sure that the people that are working with me that are helping me in this idea, this vision, whatever you want to call it, that they are well taken care of.
Yeah.
Like if they're sticking with me through the thick and thin, that they're paid well, their family is fed, you know, they're able to have time off and vacations, that there are perks that they don't get anywhere else. Like, and I do feel like that I give a lot of freedom and a lot of abilities for the team to be able to decide what kind of culture you guys want here.
Sure.
I have an opinion, but you guys are very pillar elements right now and stuff like that. But in 10 years, I'm like,
You don't have anything to do with it.
And well, okay. So at the end of this year, I'm hoping to have 5. I'm expecting to have 5 satellite locations.
Right.
In 10 years, they should all be up and running. I should have this thing in at least 100 million in revenue. That's what I would love. That's what I would love.
That's a big future.
If this one here,
big
can do 5 to 10 and serve regions,
Mm-hmm.
Dallas should be able to do that as well. San Diego should be able to do that. North
Those are big
Carolina
cities.
with Charlotte, Raleigh, and Greensboro, the 3 boroughs, they should be able to do that as well.
Okay. Wow.
You know, between Tulsa and Oklahoma City, you know, if you do 5 to 10 at each one of them, I mean, you're shooting 50 million, but you snag a couple 6-figure clients or 7-figure clients or something. You know, like it'd be awesome to do something like that.
Yeah.
Definitely not impossible.
But do I think that's realistic? No.
Why not?
I don't think 100 million between those locations is realistic.
Why?
I think realistic is somewhere in the ballpark of 25 million.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
I went to a chamber event 2 days ago, and it was over interns and business, right? And the head of the intern for the school, they said that their slogan is, "You can't be what you can't see." And while I love that slogan, that's bullshit. Every awesome invention that exists today exists because somebody saw something before everybody else saw it. Dude, 100 million is not unattainable. You just got to figure out what you got to do to get there.
Especially
It's a little
nowadays.
lofty. I'm not
Have
going to
to
say
do
it's
it
not
now.
lofty. It's lofty, but I do believe you could do it. Now, would I fucking want to? Hell no. Is that- no.
VaynerMedia, right?
Oh,
They're
Gary
global.
V?
Gary V,
Yeah.
VaynerMedia, they're global. And he's got multiple subsidiary brands underneath VaynerMedia,
Mhm.
VaynerX and whatever.
Yeah. V Friends and
Be
all that,
friends.
yeah.
Like I that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So that's who you're
Kind of
gonna be.
seeing that over the last 2 or 3 years.
You gotta start a wine
That's
business.
Cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Start selling wine
Um,
on the internet.
This is the big crazy, big hairy audacious
It's
goal,
cool.
right? I guess what
Have
I
a
was getting
location
at
in
with you
Honduras.
is what's is there a point in this business fun where it's like, hey, I'm satisfied when I get to that spot?
I'm never satisfied.
Okay.
Which
But-
is good and
okay,
bad.
You
wait,
got
It's
that
good
dog.
and
But
bad.
can I?
Like my mother would say that. She goes, "You're just never going to be happy, are you?" I'm
Oh.
like, "No, I'm happy. I'm just not content with what I
I
have."
could be
because-
happier.
Well, I always strive for something better, something greater, something bigger. Faster,
Well, I guess
stronger,
you're kind of answering
like-
this question.
because
is-
things have to progress. If you don't progress, you're stagnant, and if you're stagnant, you're left behind.
But could you not be happy with that business and what it does for you? So, for instance, a rent house. Listen, you buy a rent house. Are you happy with it? Well, not necessarily, but after it's paid off and it's making you a lot more money every month.
I'd want 10 of the rent
Are
houses.
you? Oh,
Yeah,
and
so-
once I got
I understand
10,
that.
I'd
No,
want
no, and I
100.
understand that. But you're not expecting to get the income or the benefits of 10 rent houses from that one rent house. You will continue to buy more and grow that. So that's why I always say, like in my business, Harley, you asked a very good question of like, hey, how is that? Is that going to be sustainable for me? It's like, yes. And what I'm looking at the question now is, originally I had thought I needed to be this size to get that. Well, now I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, well, I really don't need to be that size. I could be like right here. And if my numbers are really tight and everything looks really good and everything, I don't have to manage 100 employees. I could manage like 30. And we could still make the same amount of revenue, and I could still make everything work. And then I could move on to the next business that might be just something new and exciting that I get to try. And it's like, oh, I'm in that for the next whatever
And
years.
it would be fun at some point to be able to go out and make an impact.
Yeah.
And not be like, how is my ass being taken care of? How are my people being taken care of? Like, I know all that stuff is good, and now I can go out and try to make a difference somehow.
Well, you're kind of
that'd be cool.
So you kind of answered my question though, which is like, you will always want to do these fun ideas and these fun things. Like that's just never going to stop.
Like Blue Studio and Brews
Right,
and Business.
exactly.
Like,
That's just Braden.
and
and
let
the
me-
back patio.
and I
like-
guess to help with that is I had talked about this $3 million business goal. That's the point where I'm like, hey, my family and the fun goals I have for my life is now taken care of when I hit that. I could keep having fun and keep growing that, or doing other business ventures that provide revenues.
you're
and income.
still balls deep in the business at 2 million.
Yeah.
you still are liable for like so much at 2 million. And that's one of the things that like Josh Carnley, if you guys haven't listened to that episode yet, that's one of the things he said. And you're still in that grind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like if you disappeared today, the business would be like, oh shit.
You think
Yeah.
I don't know
like,
that?
you know, like if a couple of those guys that we talked with, like if they disappeared, that's fine because the business doesn't need them anymore.
Right.
They're still making checks. You're
Yeah.
still getting,
I know multiple people that make 7 figures that shouldn't be there every day at a job, but
And they are.
Yeah.
But the thing is, at that point, listen, you can only, I've always said it, you can only retire so much. And my dad growing up would always say to me, I want you to work because you want to, not because you have to. And the same idea as Harley just said, like, you're never going to be, dude, I'm not going to be happy once my business hits a certain level. It just means once it hits that certain level, if everything goes according to plan, as you said, I can either continue growing this fun stuff,
Right.
or I can go explore something else.
Well-
And it won't matter if it succeeds or not because it's still taken care of.
well,
So it's like,
typically
for
the
me,
rule
it's
of
just
thumb,
like I'm bored of working outside in the sun all day. And
Yeah.
kids are fun, and my kids are getting older, and they're going to turn into assholes. So I'll hang out with other people's kids.
typically that rule of thumb is like, so like Mason, he said, I won't invest in a business unless it's been in for 7 to 10 years. I said, okay, well, that's fair.
That's fair.
You know, but then also knowing a revenue standpoint of 2 to 3 million minimum. And I've had in the last year and a half, I've had 4 conversations with venture capitalists who have had the opportunity to like want to know about my business to buy it or invest in it and then sell out in 10 years or 3 years or whatever. But they want me at that revenue standpoint of around 2 million.
Right, because there's a certain point where you stop working hard and you got to start working smart. You got to start making people. You can only
Oh, that
create
starts
so much.
now.
You can only create like for instance, okay, you and Harley. That's a perfect example, bro. You're only gonna make it so far before you actually start talking to your bookkeeper and your CPA. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
I don't care how good you are. I mean, and yeah, maybe you could make it to 5, 10 million or whatever, but you're only gonna make it so far in business until you start talking to those people. And what we talked about at the beginning of the beginning of the podcast of their track record with banks and so on and so forth, it's all the same thing. There's certain measures of track record, 7 to 10 years. Well, you made it past 5. You definitely got something. You at least got the grit.
Yeah.
You at least got the grit to figure something out, right? To not give up. That's a number one sign that okay, maybe got something going on.
Or you
And
got
then-
a lot of money in the bank to spend.
Right. And then there's the 2 million. It's like, wow, you made it past over $1 million. And everybody knows that first million is a bitch.
It's the hardest.
And once we get past that and everything starts
It's a
rolling,
little easier. You
it
hit
kinda-
10.
yeah, and it's not like easier, but at that point, did you stay at the million or did you continue growing? Because if you stayed at the million, that told us that you never did anything. You got to that hard point and you stayed. But if you got to your million and you maybe struggled a little bit and then you kind of kept growing up and you kind of see you see that somebody is coachable, they're open to making changes and so on and so forth. Where I have met a lot of business owners that
Don't have the emotion.
they're not business owners, they're side hustlers, they're and it's like it is hard. I get it. I know it's hard, dude. I look in that mirror too. It's hard. But you have to make a decision. Do you look in that mirror anyways and say it's all your fault? Or do you say, screw this, I'm going to go work for somebody else?
I love that question. So we got a few minutes left. We need to let Chance answer.
Mine's very simple.
Before we
I don't need
close.
to talk about 20 minutes. Legacy. I want to build my own legacy.
You say that all the time.
That's easy to me.
And I can attain to that because Chance and his brother.
Wait, why?
So my grandfather built a company back from 46, and he built a big company.
Nice.
And
It's a big company.
Yeah. And to see that and what my family has turned it into is very eye-opening and understanding of the world isn't as big as you think it is.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of become the black sheep of the family.
Okay.
So
Because you didn't join the business or something?
Well-
no, I chose myself over them.
Okay.
Yeah, my uncles definitely wanted me to make sure that I made sure that they had a good life
Mhm.
and they never had to worry about nothing. And when I chose myself over that, I just kind of got looked down on.
Hmm.
So now
Okay.
I just do it myself.
Yeah.
What do you? We didn't meet. What do you do?
Insurance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Insurance agent.
Great.
That's what I'm getting into.
Sure.
So
That's awesome.
But I wanna say something. Chance, I've known him forever. he mentioned his grandpa started an awesome business, and his family has continued it.
It could have been great.
It could have been
multi-generational.
Yeah,
but
and I mean, technically, it is still pretty
is,
awesome.
But
nonetheless, what I was going to get at is he says legacy, and to say there's proof behind that is him and his brother. Since I've known them, I'd always say, "Man, you guys are rich." Like, we're not rich. My mom and dad are rich, and that just goes to prove that he's never felt this was his legacy. He was always going to create his own legacy. And
No,
it's like, whatever that was, it wasn't, he understood that was there and he could have, but literally since day one, I would always say that. Cause again, his grandpa has built something for them, and he did what he wanted to do. It was awesome.
yeah, I'm
But
taking
the
nothing
reality
away
is-
from
and
him.
you don't want to be a trust fund kid.
Right,
You
and
don't
that's
wanna
the
bank
thing.
on that.
Right. And not to say that they don't, dude, they are thankful beyond measures for what they have, but the humbleness and the reality of like, hey, I understand I could take this, but it's more of like a proof to himself of like, hey, if my grandpa did it and
I
we're
could do
here,
it.
I can do it.
Yeah,
Right.
And I'm going to do it. Not I can, I will do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how and when. And like I said, I just want to say that because like I've literally known this guy for forever. And
I mean,
since
more than
since-
15 years.
since day one,
Yeah.
from my perspective as a young kid, seeing him, it's like, dude, you guys got money. This is crazy. Blah, blah. He's like, no, we don't. We don't.
Yeah.
They would both say we don't.
Right.
My mom and dad do.
I'm
That's their
broke.
money.
Good
I'm
job to
broke.
your parents, because I'm sure they
'Cause-
drilled
because
you.
they did. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That definitely didn't
my
come from
mother,
them.
my father, they did amazing. My grandparents
I'm
did
make sure
amazing.
you Reese's
Yeah.
cup in front of my kids.
My
Not
uncles
Reese's
just
cup.
have the power at the company
Yeah,
to
yeah.
where they're the ones making the shots, which is
Yeah.
understandable. They've
Right.
worked for it. I'm
Right.
not taking nothing away from them. It's just when you choose yourself over someone else and they, put you in the bad light in their own eyes,
Mhm.
it really shows you perspective. I don't want to be associated with this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a million ways to skin a cat. So I don't need to
Right.
do what you're doing to make the money.
That's right.
So if you don't know your numbers and you need to know your numbers a little bit better, I know a guy.
I know a guy.
These days,
He's over here turning his shoulders.
Get this man a mirror.
Oh man, this has been a great episode. Harley, if
Absolutely.
we need to get in touch with you, how do we do that, and why should we?
Yeah, so it's Get Better Bookkeeping. You can go to getbetterbookkeeping.com. Look on the website at everything we do. Why would you get a hold of me? Because you want to build a business that's maybe financially rewarding for you for the first time. You've been at this for a while, or maybe you're just starting and you're hearing all these stories that we're talking about today, and you want to make sure you are building a business that's really working for you versus you working for the business. And that all starts by knowing what the heck's happening. So getting down to knowing your numbers, we try and make that easy, and we help guide you to correct decisions on what to do with those facts. So if that sounds good to you, we'd love to talk.
Fantastic. And on the brewsandbiz.com website, you'll always find our cool merch. And we need to figure out some other cool stuff to add on there.
I would tell you,
Anyways,
these pint glasses are perfect to make a milkshake in.
dude, are
For
they
dessert, they really are. I love them.
This carries water really well.
really? Yeah, but we don't sell that on the website.
Yeah.
Where's the other glass? That glass is cool.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. Bam. Look at that glass. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
And it's like etched in there.
Can I?
It's
yeah,
not
it really
a
is. No,
sticker.
yeah,
It's
it's
not
not a sticker.
cheap.
It's
Yeah,
it's
it's
actually
not
made
cheap.
on the glass.
This is
It's
actually
really
my
good.
favorite water glass at the house. Because I have a Brews and Business and have an ARC cup
Yep.
at the house. No matter what, every time I get water, I use one because my wife's always like, "You pull down the cup." 'Cause you're the only one who grabs those. I'm like, well, one, I had Mindy on the show. It's glass.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm
Yep.
like, and two, I mean, it's us. Why wouldn't I use it? Hell yeah, it's a great. And I've dropped it a couple times. I have young kids. These
It's
suckers do not
durable.
break.
Yeah, they have
They
not broken
do not
yet.
I
break.
was
They
shocked.
are great.
We tested it out a few weeks.
Yeah,
a few months
I have a
ago.
concrete floor, and from 3 feet up, dropped it out of the dishwasher, and it did not break. So,
We should
Wow.
we should go make
Yeah.
a clip outside about that and then watch it break.
yeah, watch it break.
Oh,
It's like when he had the Cybertruck, and he was
Yeah.
throwing
Oh,
those
yeah.
steel balls at the
Yep.
windows, and it
Yeah.
shattered them.
So the Brews and Business, the official brews, you guys got to try that. It's a local coffee roaster here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's amazing coffee. It's roasted to brew. The guy does it himself. Really cool. Use the code Brews. Links on our website. It'll be in the show notes and in the video description down below. So Until then, we appreciate you guys for listening. Leave us a review, like, comment, share. If you got ideas of other episodes you want us to, record, interview, talk about, discussions, whatever it is, we're all ears. So appreciate your time. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks.